Hey, it's Mirna from Trainer's Toolbox. Welcome to the Trainer's Toolbox podcast, a place where you can discover practical and effective tools and tips to make your workshops more insightful, engaging, and memorable. You are at the right place if you're looking to become the best trainer you can be and design truly impactful learning experiences. Ready? Let's dive in. How we manage our energy levels shows up in so many ways in life of a trainer. First of all, it shows up in our life in general. How much can we actually do? How much energy do we have to invest in things? What is our quality of our time in our life? Because we have high energy or we are drained of energy. On the other hand, it also shows up in our workshops, how we show up as a trainer, how energetic we are, how much can we sustain our energy throughout the long day and the long process. And finally, it shows up in how we support our group, how we shape their energy journey, how we support them to keep the high focus and to keep their batteries full so they could really engage with activities and learnings. So it's one of the most important topics, and we never talk about it enough. Today, I want to explore with you two practical principles or frameworks that will hugely help you in how you manage your own energy in all these different aspects, in your own life, in your own energy, in your workshops, and in your group energy. But before I dive in, let's just touch on what do I actually mean when I say energy. I mean that sense of vitality, zest, enthusiasm. I mean that feeling full of life, feeling energetic. I mean the way we approach life that is excited and when we feel good about things. I mean when we don't do things halfway, half-heartedly, but we really give ourselves into the things because we have the power and the energy of doing so. And doing all that in physical, in mental, and in emotional level. So really showing up fully in our life, in our work, in our communication, in our conversations with full energy, with full power, with full enthusiasm. That is how I know I want to live my life and do my work as a trainer. I hope you're striving to do the same, and I hope this podcast today will give you a little support and a little help in doing exactly that. Now, why would we care for energy in the first place? Why does it matter? It matters on so many levels, but here are just the three that I want to name. Number one, our energy defines our performance and our results. What I can create is directly correlated with how much energy I have to invest. Not only to energy, but a big part of it is created to energy. On the other hand, how happy, satisfied, fulfilled do I actually feel in my days? How much I can enjoy a moment, a day, anything that I'm engaging with. It's, again, direct consequence of do I feel dead and drained and tired, or do I actually feel my batteries are full and I feel fresh and full of energy? And finally, it's the sustainable way to live our life, to manage our energy levels well, and to recognize when we need to recharge, and to be efficient and effective in the way we manage our energy and in the way we recover it. So we would actually protect ourselves from burnout. So our impact into the world and our work would actually be sustainable over long term. And we could actually keep on building and creating things for long years ahead and not just in a spike of high energy for a moment. When we think about energy management, there are three tips or three ways we can approach it. And first step in that is to understand a little bit better some of the universal laws. How does energy management work? What do we need to know about this? And then the second, we also want to explore some practical tips and tools. I'm sharing both of these with you today. Some of the two big universal principles, and then some of the practical tips and tools that you can actually apply and work with. But then ultimately the most important step is the third one. And that is to then take these and adapt it to your own life, to your own style or your own needs. So all the things that we talk about, they're all valid and they're all useful, but they only work if you can put them in the context of your life and make them work for you. So I do want to invite you as we go through all the learnings today, as I'm sharing different tools. I will also invite you at some point to reflect a little bit on how is it working out for you. Do take that opportunity because these principles, they're only useful if you actually do something with them, if you actually see how can they work for you. Now, the most important principle of energy management is, or one of the two most important ones, is that we should think with different aspects of energy in mind. Specifically, we can think of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. Let me clarify each of them just a tiny bit to make sure we have no misunderstandings. Physical is my baseline, my physical baseline. What is actually the quantity of energy I have? It's what we recharge when we're physically fit. It's what we recharge when we sleep well, when we have a good rest, when we are not overly stressed but fairly relaxed, when we are full of energy physically. And that is the first ground, the foundation of everything else. Then we have emotional energy. And emotional is really about the quality of my energy. Do I have high energy right now because I'm doing things with joy and excitement? Or do I have high energy right now because I'm so pissed off and so angry? It's different quality, right? If I engage with the process in high energetic way because of stress, my output will be very different than if I engage with that process because of high excitement. So quality of my energy there is different. And emotional energy, of course, is defined both by enjoyable and uncomfortable emotions. And it doesn't mean we should also fuel it just by joy and fun and enjoyment. It's also about how we are able to process and let go of uncomfortable ones. They both play in, but we want to see that emotional shade, the emotional quality of our energy in things we do. Then we also have the mental aspect. A mental aspect is really about my ability to focus and employ my energy in a way that's actually beneficial and not disperse it and not waste it and not lose it, but really to focus it onto what I'm working on, onto what matters, to keep it as sort of this beam of energy directed in a thing in which I want to engage with. And then finally, spiritual energy. It's all about sense of meaning. So spiritual energy, it's not so much about my spirituality or about religion or anything like that. It's really about what is driving me, what is my why, what are my values, what is important to me, what do I care about, and where do I find the sense of meaning in my life. And that is what gives the force to my energy. That is what fuels me, what pulls me in, even when I don't have a lot of physical energy or mental energy. That's what creates reason and meaning and purpose to all these other levels. I hope this makes sense. I will go a little bit deeper into each of them, but I also want to remind you that you have a handout with this episode, as with every episode, that you can download by clicking on the link in the description of the episode. If you want to reflect on this framework a little bit deeper, if you want to explore it a bit more, you might want to download that and check it out. Now, stepping into a little bit more details with this, I will also invite you at the end of overview of all 4 of them to reflect a bit also on how is it working out for you. We will get to that in a minute, but for now, let's see. In physical energy, what really contributes to it, it's the food we eat, the exercise or movement or active lifestyle we have, sleep, and also different moments of rest and relaxation through the day. It could be things like meditation or massage or whatever, stretching a bit, chilling, any of these, taking a nap, whatever works for you. But it's also about this ability to rest and to relax within our busy day for short moments. Sleep is a huge one, exercise and fitness is a huge one as well. And food is especially huge to the point that we want to avoid the peaks and crashes, especially the sugar peaks and crashes. So food is more about just creating that fuel for everything else. I think physical is quite straightforward, not easy, but straightforward to manage. Then we have emotional energy. And that's really about how we actually feel. How many positive emotions or enjoyable emotions are we experiencing? How much can we bring them into the things we do and stay with them? How much are we engaged in the work we do and the life we live? How much flow do we have in that life? And also, how much do we feel good about ourselves? Do we feel valued and respected? Are we gentle with ourselves, or do we always go for too much self-criticism? in a way, how do we relate to ourselves and how do we feel about our life and ourselves in general. But it's also especially which emotions we bring into the situation in which we want to engage certain energy. And then mental energy is a lot about doing one thing at a time, about creating ability to focus, about removing distractions, both external and internal, and really building that ability to focus our energy in one thing at a time, because that's when it truly has power and force, and when we can really invest that energy to move something forward. And another really important aspect of mental energy is clarity. So not to feel constantly overwhelmed and dispersed, but really invest time in clarity and reflection and priorities and so on. And then finally, the spiritual energy, as I mentioned, it's a lot about that sense of purpose. So that one we will be building and maintaining always when we work on our values, when we work on our goals, but like really meaningful goals. What am I wanting to contribute to the world? What is important to me about my work? And it's also a little bit about us as contributors to the world and our contribution as well. So in some way, our need to matter and to actually create some difference. I do want to invite you here to maybe take a moment already and think, how are these 4 working for you right now? So between physical, emotional, mental and spiritual energy, which of these feel very full for you and which of these maybe feel a little bit lower at the moment? I will give you more time for deeper reflection a bit later. So for now, just notice. And now I'll still share the second principle of managing energy. And after that, we will also take a little bit of time for reflection. So these 4 aspects, these are really what you want to manage and what you want to be aware of and how you want to align different aspects of energy together. But equally important question is, so how do we work on them? If I realize my physical energy is not the best, or my mental energy, for example, it's not the best, I don't have a lot of capacity in it, and it's not even that I'm not putting in an effort, but I'm simply, I don't have a habit of staying focused for a long time maybe, so I'm low in that. It's not that only my energy is low in this moment, but it's also that my capacity for that is low. So how can I work on building more of that? And we do want to always think with both of these in mind. Number 1, right now, what do I need to recharge? Which of these aspects is a bit weaker? Do I need some sleep or do I need some, meditation? What do I actually need? Which of the 4 is the weak link at the moment, right now? How do I recharge it? But then the second aspect is also, how is my capacity in each of these? Which one should I enlarge? Which one can I work with to actually make it stronger in general? How can I strengthen that specific muscle of that type of energy, like my mental energy or emotional, whichever it is? So now I'll share still with you a little bit about how can we actually approach it? How can we actually build that capacity? How can we actually strengthen it? And with how, it's really 3 steps. First one, you want to keep the 4 main aspects in mind. And second step, you always want to choose clear priorities for the moment. Even though they're all connected and they all feed into each other, and as you work on one, it will support others as well. So if you work on your physical energy, naturally you'll be also emotionally more resilient and you'll be mentally more focused and so on. If you work on your mental energy, that will help you also to deal with emotions better and to make better choices related to your physical energy. So they all feed into each other very much. But you do want to choose, where do I start? And don't worry if you don't have an answer to that at the moment. We will work on it a little bit together as well. But then the third thing is, apart from choosing these clear priorities for this very moment right now, you also want to think, how do I raise capacity for each of the 4 sources? And how do I work actually on that capacity? And when we talk about raising capacity, it's about simple tension. And that tension is between challenge and recovery. And it really works a little bit like if you would want to strengthen a muscle. If you want to strengthen a muscle, what do you need to do? You need to challenge that muscle, right? Give it a good workout where you actually challenge it a bit over your regular limits. And that challenge will serve as a stimuli for growth. That muscle will kind of say, hey, I need to grow to be able to deal with these kind of things, obviously. There will be adaptation that your body will want to do. But then, where that growth truly happens, it happens in the recovery phase. It happens when you leave that, gym or whatever you challenge yourself, and when you give that muscle a rest. and when you give it a chance to recover and actually build that strength. And one does not work without the other. If I just keep challenging that muscle, it will be too tired, it will be drained and overstrained, and it will not have a chance to grow because it will never have space for that. But if I also, don't provide that challenge, there will be no stimuli for growth and no reason. So I'll just stay in relaxation, in recovery all the time, and that muscle in a way will atrophy. And it's the same with all 4 aspects of our energy. If I want to build my muscle of focus, I need to challenge myself to work in a deeper, more focused way, to reach more clarity maybe. And then I also need to take a break for that. Do something easy, engaging, brainless, that doesn't take a lot of willpower and effort to allow that mental muscle to recover. And I want to do the same in all other aspects. I want to do the same in emotional aspect, where I want to really engage with things, be present in them, enjoy the moment of heightened emotion, but then also take space from it. Maybe build time alone, take space in nature, spend time with friends who relax us, in some way have period without intense emotions. And don't worry, we'll also get to it, how often do we want to play with each of these. But what we want to think in all aspects is basically sprint and not marathon. We really want to think, how do I push and then recover? Push and recover in all of the 4 aspects. You might notice that's not something we do naturally in this kind of modern lifestyle. We tend to be continuously engaged mentally, always thinking about something, always overthinking. And that tends to be fatigued. This can be quite individual, but that muscle tends to be fatigued. And then at the same time, physically, maybe we under-challenge ourselves. Maybe we sit too much and too long. Even if we do some workouts, maybe there is much more space to challenge ourselves. And then emotionally, often we also never disconnect. Even if we are away from work or family or any challenges, we don't really take space to just take it easy and emotionally and disconnect from everything. So I think probably you can also recognize how this in your own life might, work better or less well. So I do want to invite you for a moment to reflect also on your own life and scenarios in your own life. So we will use these 4 aspects to think a little bit. How do they work in your life right now? Like today, where are your batteries? In your life in general, so, on a bigger picture, which capacities should you build? And then in your workshops, first of all, for your own energy, and second one, for your own participants. I will go a little bit deeper into main principles and into some of the example of different cycles we can establish, and into specific exercise that you can do, and into where to start with actually rebuilding that capacity. But before that, in this step, I really want us to go through these 4 use cases in your own life and work, so you would recognize which of the elements actually would you need to and want to strengthen. So first of all, in your life right now, do take a moment to think. In your life right now, today, between physical, mental, emotional, mental, and spiritual, which of these is a little bit low? Which of these do you need to be recharging right now? These days, this week, tonight. Feel free to pause if you need a moment to think and try to answer from the 4: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Which one is a little bit lower right now? Which one requires a priority right now? If you need more time, do pause. I'm moving on to the second of 4 questions, and that is, how about in your life in general? Which of the 4 in general is the one that you manage least well? Which is the one where you have the lowest capacity in general? It could be 1, it could be 2, shouldn't be all of them. Choose some priorities. But between physical energy, emotional energy, so emotional meaning experiencing positive emotions, engaging with positive emotions, but also processing negative ones. And then mental energy, and then spiritual. Which of them in your life in general is at lower capacity? Which one is not your forte and could use some attention? And again, pause, take time to think if needed. Question number 3, to reflect for a moment. What about in your workshops when we talk about your own energy? Which of these 4 aspects is a bit neglected and gets drained first or gets drained the most when you're delivering a workshop? Is it physical, that you get physically tired from all the, interactions and movement and conversations and being there the whole day, having an early start and so on? Or is it emotional, because you're maybe empathizing a lot with your participants, maybe also holding their energy, maybe having ups and downs depending on how they react to things. Maybe when somebody yawns, it gives you a lot of frustrating emotions, or if anything goes wrong with the process. So is it emotional? Is it mental? Is it challenging to keep your focus so sharp for the whole day? Or is it spiritual? Do you have moments when you disconnect from the meaning of it and it feels a bit like, what are they talking about? Is this really useful? Which one is it in your workshops? And again, feel free to pause, give it a bit more thoughts. I'm moving on to the 4th and last reflection questions for the moment. And that is, how about for your participants? Which of their energy aspects do you feel, and this is a bit of a guessing, but still, what do you notice, what do you feel, that drops for them first? Do you tire them out physically? Maybe they need more breaks. Do you tire them out emotionally because you design very intense processes and they keep jumping from one intense emotion to the other? Do you tend to drain them a bit and overwhelm them mentally because you require a lot of thinking, a lot of focus? Or do you maybe drain them a bit spiritually because they lack a bit more of meaning, a little bit more of, ideas of how to approach it and why is this important in the first place? And again, do take a moment to pause and reflect on this question. I hope these reflections gave you some really valuable insights. I also want to invite you to take a moment to decide now, where would you most like to improve your energy management? Is it in your life right now? You really need some recharge. Is it in your life in general? You want to work on that overall capacity and keep building it up? Is it in your energy in your own workshops? Or is it in sustaining and maintaining your participants' energy? I will still go a little bit deeper now into how can we be building that capacity for ourselves in our own life and work. If you would like me to also pick up an episode where I really explore just that side of maintaining participants' energy, let me know. You can do that via LinkedIn, or you can do that by replying to Trainer's Toolbox newsletter. That's 2 best ways of doing it. You have both newsletter and LinkedIn linked into the episode description. So if you would like me to dive in deeper into that topic, do say. But if you also want to work on that topic really deeper, of managing your participants' emotion and energy and building engaging, exciting, impactful emotional journey that supports their learning journey in an optimal way, you might want to join me on an online course called Optimal Emotions for Learning that goes in 3 modules. That is one of my favorite courses to deliver, especially for more experienced trainers who never really went for and explored how to build that experience on the side of emotions as well. So I very much want to invite you to join me there if that's a topic that speaks to you right now. I will also link it into the description. Now back to some of the practical tips and principles. How can we actually build more of that energy capacity? So to increase your own energy capacity, you really just want to establish that cycle that I was mentioning before in all 4 energy aspects. And ideally, you might want to go by one aspect at the time. I give you some tips later how to pick which to start with. But ideally, you want to have those 3 elements. Number 1, you want to keep increasing the challenge. Keep challenging yourself, pushing a bit higher than you normally would, pushing a bit beyond your limits in that specific aspect. Like in sports, we would keep pushing to challenge ourselves physically a bit more. And maybe that in mental, you might challenge yourself with a bit more difficult questions to reflect on, or a little bit longer time to sustain your focus, a bit deeper thinking. So building some sort of meaningful challenge again and again and again, and always a little bit higher in each of these aspects. And then after each of these challenges, you want to have adequate recovery. after you push yourself, you want to ensure that you also give yourself space to recharge. Now, great news is that often we can recharge one of the aspects of our energy while engaging with the other. For example, we can recover mental and emotional energy by engaging with some sports and working on our physical energy, or the opposite. We can recover the mental energy by engaging in a enjoyable emotional journey, like a good date or a good conversation with a friend and so on. So we might also want to combine them. It's not just about managing them separately. It's also about, taking a break in one area while engaging with the other one. And then the most important part is we want to establish some sort of a cycle and rhythm between the two, some sort of habits and rituals which will help us to keep challenging and keep recovering without thinking about it all the time. Okay, so we really want to aim for turning this into habits, into rituals, into cycles that are existing always in our life and that we don't need to consciously think about so much. And some examples of such cycles can be when you work, that's something like Pomodoro technique. You probably know about it. It's a technique where you work for 25 minutes, then take 5 minutes break. And 25 minutes is like full focus, deep work. And then 5 minutes is really disconnecting fully from that. And the exact numbers can vary a lot. They could be even up to 2 hours of focused work, probably not more. Usually they can be around 45 minutes or an hour of focused work, and then they disconnect and break in between. The exact cycle, this is that part where you should really individualize, and maybe it's not even the same on every day. But working in that style, full in, full disconnect, that's what we want to achieve. We also want to have that in a maybe work day versus evening, so truly disconnecting from work and engaging with something different. Not just different from work, but also different in terms of in which energy aspect it challenges us. And then we want to work on the aspect of work week versus weekend, and then of course yearly, kind of like some vacation time dispersed. So it's classical rhythms of our life that ideally we implement and have often anyway. And we implement them in our day, in our work day and day in general, and weekends and like week rhythm and year rhythm. However, the question is, when we implement them, do we truly implement them well? Do we truly in focused times challenge ourselves and push ourselves? And do we truly disconnect and recover in other times? If not, do question it a little bit. In which of these aspects should you strengthen that rhythm? Should you strengthen the challenge? Should you strengthen the recovery? In which timeline? Is it in hour, in day, in week, in year? Where is it that your cycle needs to be strengthened a little bit? Now, one more really good question is where to start. And ideally, you got the answer to that already with our self-reflection questions of where are you in your life right now? And where are you in your life in general? And hopefully there you already got an insight which one is a good starting point for you, because you want to start with the one that's a little bit down and recharge that one first. But in general, you can also think about them a bit like on a bit of a pyramid, where physical energy is on the bottom and it's the foundation and it holds the ground for everything else. And then on top of it, it's the emotional one. And then on top of it, it's mental one. And then on the highest kind of level and most abstract level is the spiritual one. When you think about it like that, you can, and they all support each other in both directions. But when you think about it like that, you can think about recharging from bottom up. So if you just feel like really tired and you don't even know, like you're just drained, a bit burned out, you don't even know where to start, then physical energy would actually be a really good starting point. Protecting more time just for sleep, for a bit of rest and relaxation, paying a bit more attention to exercise and food, and starting with that foundation. If on the other hand, you're kind of unsure where to start, not really motivated, feel a bit, disengaged with things in your life, and that energy is more a matter of motivation, then really good place to start will be from the top, which is spiritual energy, and taking time to reflect on what matters to you. And taking time to reflect on your goals, your values, why do the things that you do, what do you actually care about, and just kind of exploring, and re-engaging with that force that will pull your motivation And with that, it will inspire you and motivate you to work on all other levels as well. So you can work on any of them, of any of the four: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. Each of them will fuel others as well. But these are good starting points if you're unsure where to start. One other amazing exercise that is very connected to this topic is the exercise of self-check-in. I will also work out an episode to explore that exercise as well. It's one you can use for yourself and your participants sometimes in the near future, next couple of weeks or month. So if that's interesting one for you, make sure to or subscribe to the channel or sign up for Trainer's Toolbox newsletter. You have signed up into the episode description to make sure you actually see when this powerful and really useful exercise comes out. I would love to make all the episodes, at the same time and launch it everything, but there are still so many ideas of the next topics that, they will be coming gradually every 2 weeks, something new. So stay tuned for the novelties. And finally, I wish to invite you to just take away really 3 things from today. One of them is to think about your energy in terms of these 4 aspects. To always question, both on daily level and also on bigger picture of your life, which of these 4 do I need to nourish more? Which of these 4 is the weak link right now? It will really help you structure your recovery and also see where you need to strengthen your capacity. And then when you think about building your recovery, takeaway number 2 is to always keep in mind this challenge versus recovery, the tension between pushing and then also recovering, and really establishing those cycles in different timelines of our overall life. And then the third takeaway is to really take time to think, not a lot of time, but more like intention, to think about this in a really individual way, to do more of self-check-in with yourself, to ask yourself, which of the 4 should I recharge now? To take it in the individual and personal way, truly for yourself, and apply these universal principles in a way that's really most relevant for you. And this also starts with picking, should I implement this first, right now in my life to recharge? Should I implement it in my life in general on a bigger picture to make sure I build more of capacity? Should I pay more attention to these principles and model in my workshops to maintain my own energy better? Or should I also implement it towards my participants? Which of the 4 areas is the main priority for you? And again, they all support each other. So whichever you work on, it will contribute to everything else. Remember, you can grab the handout to this episode. Do click on subscribe, do get in touch with any wishes and feedback on this episode or wishes for future episodes. Always the best way to get in touch is through LinkedIn. You can find me there easily with my slightly strange name, one and only. And also through Trainer's Toolbox newsletter. So I write Trainer's Toolbox newsletter every Wednesday, every week. I share new tools, tips and ideas there. You can sign up in the in the description. And when you sign up by receiving every newsletter, you can also hit reply and share any thoughts, comments, ideas, wishes for future episodes, tips that you're missing, tips that you want to share, questions you would like me to explore. I would love to connect a bit more on that level, a bit more also personally, instead of just me talking to the camera or talking to the mic. So please, let's do that. Get in touch, connect in different places, and keep an eye for the future episodes because I have so many new ideas and tools I want to share. I hope you will enjoy exploring many of them in the future. I wish you a great day ahead. Thank you for exploring this topic with me. I hope you found some exciting ideas and valuable tools that you will use already today. Remember, they only work if you put them in practice, but then they make all the difference. If you enjoy Trainer's Toolbox podcast, do leave a rating and review. It does mean a lot. And if you haven't done it yet, click on the links in the episode descriptions and discover free materials and valuable resources to dive in deeper. See you in the next episode or at Trainer's Toolbox newsletter.